South Park returns to the world of video games with its second major title that's continuing to make us laugh, think, and feel a little weird about what we're laughing at. What's up everyone, I'm Jacob with the Leaderboard, and today we're going to dish out 7 facts about South Park, the Fractured Butthole, so get ready to have yourself a time by hearing that title over and over again. We're all very mature here at the Leaderboard, so no giggling allowed! South Park the Fractured Butthole is the sequel to 2014's highly successful South Park the Stick of Truth. The game picks up right where the last one left off, but a lot happened behind the scenes before our favorite dirty-mouthed 4th graders could continue on whatever wacky, weird, and mildly disturbing journey they choose to go on next. Prior to South Park the Stick of Truth's release, Matt Stone and Trey Parker both stated that they would be interested in developing a sequel to the Stick of Truth depending on the game's success, and boy did that game succeed, selling well over 5 million copies. So naturally, it was decided that a sequel would be made. But it wasn't an easy road from being announced to actually hitting the shelves, as the game was delayed several times before its release. The Fractured Butthole was originally announced for a December 2016 release before that date was pushed back. After this first delay, Ubisoft announced that the game would hit the market in the first quarter of 2017, but when that time came, Ubisoft announced that the game would instead hit the market sometime before March 2018, and luckily this time they hit their target with their incredibly imprecise aim. It certainly took more than 6 days for this game to air. Oh, what's that? Is that a reference to the eye-opening 2011 documentary 6 Days to Air about the production of South Park? Although the original game was developed by Obsidian Entertainment, the sequel was instead developed by Ubisoft. This was because of the appeal of working within a larger studio and the fact that they animate using Autodesk Maya, allowing for the game to have a smoother pipeline. But luckily there seems to be no hard feelings about the switch from Obsidian, with CEO Fergus Urquhart saying, "We are super excited to see another South Park game getting made and we can't wait to play it ourselves." They seem to be taking it well, and we're glad, because we can't wait to play it either. So the last game was inspired by Tolkien-esque fantasy, so when thinking of what to do for the sequel, Matt Stone and Trey Parker were like, been there, done that, what's next? What's big? Superheroes. Matt Stone explained this choice saying, "Superheroes in video games, there's just a lot to take the piss on," which is more than enough of a reason to go after it from our perspective, as well as theirs. Even though Matt Stone and Trey Parker are notoriously known as two of the biggest jokesters in the entertainment industry, that doesn't mean that they don't work their butts off. In preparation for the Fractured Butthole, the duo watched hours of Let's Plays of Stick of Truth so they could gauge from the point of view of the players what was and wasn't working. And by figuring out and correcting the flaws in the original game, Stone claims that the Fractured Butthole is much, much better. As stated previously, the game takes place right after the events of Stick of Truth, but now Stan, Kyle, Cartman, Kenny, and all of their pals are sick of playing fantasy and decide that they're going to play superheroes instead. Egos get hurt when the boys are planning their billion-dollar superhero cinematic universe, and the kids split up into 2 opposing factions in a Civil War-esque scenario. You see, the sides are fractured, but whole. You play as the same new kid in town character from the Stick of Truth, but now due to the switch of playing superheroes, nobody cares about your prior accomplishments from the last game, and you have to work hard to regain everyone's respect yet again. One of the biggest complaints about the Stick of Truth was the fact that the turn-based RPG combat system got repetitive and boring as the game went on. Parker, Stone, and the development team all brainstormed together on how they could make the fights within the game more interesting and involved. Stone and Parker are both big board game enthusiasts, so they, along with the rest of the team, experimented with different combat ideas on tabletop before transferring it into the game. The team felt it was necessary to maintain the turn-based combat system because it lends itself to comedic timing, something that's very important to keep in mind for a South Park video game. To help with this, the team took a look at how other games with turn-based systems experimented within these limitations and ended up using a more tactical and grid-based system, similar to what you would find in XCOM, or slightly more topically, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. So the 2 key elements that the team added for combat in this game is the player's ability to affect space and time. The player controls the space by choosing where to place the characters within the fighting area for strategic advantage, such as allowing the character to push enemies into dangerous obstacles, or even into other characters who supply an extra dose of butt fracturing. Now, how does the player control time? Well, as introduced in the previous game, the player's character has an incredible gift: insanely powerful farts. In fact, in this game, the character's farts are so powerful that sometimes you can bend time itself, shuffling the order of the turn-based combat. Another piece of feedback the team received was a desire for a deeper character creation system. Many aspects of the character creator from the last game are relatively unchanged. In the last game, you were able to pick your character class from the choices of fighter, thief, mage, or Jew. Classic South Park. Similarly though, with a few more choices, you choose what powers your superhero will have, with the options of Brutalist, Blaster, Speedster, Elementalist, Gadgeteer, Mystic, Cyborg, Psychic, Assassin, Commander, Netherborn, and Karate Kid. One major difference in the Fractured Butthole is how it deals with gender. In the Stick of Truth, the player is only given the option of playing as a male character, but in the Fractured Butthole, you're allowed to create a female character that is still implied to be the same character who participated in the Stick of Truth. How is this done? Well, near the beginning of the game, your character visits Mr. Mackey, South Park Elementary's guidance counselor, to confirm the gender of your character. If you choose to create a female character, Mr. Mackey will awkwardly yet politely call your parents to explain that the school was under the misconception that your character was male and apologize. What's super cool is that you can also choose to have your character be gender neutral and lead to similar results. The game even acknowledges the difference between sex and gender, and after Mackey asks for your gender, he'll ask if you're cisgender or transgender. If you answer that you're transgender, Mackey will have another awkward yet polite conversation with your parents on the phone about how he was unaware of your situation, but supportive. Another major aspect of character creation added to this game is some pretty major racial commentary. The designers combined the sliders for the race of your character and the difficulty of the game so that the darker your character's skin tone is, the harder the difficulty of the game is. Though on this selection screen, Cartman clarifies, don't worry, this doesn't affect combat, just every other aspect of your whole life. What he's referring to specifically is that the difficulty you choose affects how people in the game treat you and how much money your character makes. Wow, things just got incredibly real. Gonna be honest, I think it's safe to say that none of us expected some of the most interesting character creation choices of recent years to be found in a South Park video game. But then again, isn't that unexpectedness what makes South Park so memorable? When making a comedic video game, the designers have to think about how the mechanics of the game tie into the comedy. Similarly, the writers have to think about how to write comedy within the context of a game. Somehow, Ubisoft and South Park Digital Studios made it work by designing a whole bunch of really cool game concepts that are also really funny. In the Stick of Truth, you were able to play a minigame in some bathrooms that would allow you to create projectiles by pooping in the toilet. This same minigame is brought back and expanded for the Fractured But Whole. In this game, you're allowed to poop in any toilet in all of South Park and play that fun pooping minigame, which is expanded to include all sorts of expert pooping techniques. The game also includes a side plot where you have to rise in popularity as a social media superhero superstar. You do this by increasing your number of followers on your Coonstagram account, the social media network named after Cartman's alter ego, the Coon. You gain followers by taking selfies with characters throughout the world, but people will only take a picture with you if you have a mutual friend with them. One of the highlights of this is that you can eventually take a picture with Morgan Freeman while he works at a Mexican fast food restaurant. Being that this is a video game based on a TV show, there are plenty of South Park Easter eggs to be found throughout the game. For example, a very popular episode from season 19 of South Park called Tweek and Craig is about the entirety of South Park becoming so infatuated with the idea of Tweek and Craig being in a homosexual relationship with one another. In reference to this, there is of course yaoi fan art of Tweek and Craig hidden throughout the game. Another little tidbit is that all of the child superheroes in the Fractured But Whole have previously appeared on the show. However, during most of the arc in which they assume these identities, the identity of Mysterion is a mystery. Hence the name Mysterion. Get it? It's a very subtle name. At the end of this arc, Mysterion is revealed to be Kenny, and in the announcement trailer for the game, Cartman just refers to Mysterion as Kenny, so I guess he's not so mysterious anymore. Another cool behind-the-scenes scoop is that the animators of the Fractured But Whole, as well as the Stick of Truth, were given the full library of South Park assets to work with. This means that the characters in the game are fully accurate to the design of the show, and this allows the developers to draw from a wider variety of characters, so pretty much any character that's ever appeared on the show could hypothetically appear in the game. And that is sweet. South Park just wouldn't be South Park if there weren't some controversies to go along with it. I mean, the show has its own Wikipedia page solely dedicated to its controversies. In the weeks leading up to the release of the game, the race difficulty slider started to get a lot of media attention. There were a lot of vocal opinions from all sides, some claiming it to be insensitive, while others believe it to be ingenious. Either way, it certainly was a bold choice. Matt Stone and Trey Parker are no strangers to poking fun at religion either, considering that they wrote the Tony Award-winning musical The Book of Mormon and are personal enemies of the Church of Scientology. One of the earliest plots in the game is that Cartman sends you to the local Catholic church to figure out your deepest fear, and while you're there, you run into a few priests with, less than holy intentions, if you catch my drift. I'm sure the Catholic Church is thrilled to have the spotlight on them again. This video is killing it with these movie title references. The biggest question we probably all have about the game, though, is what was the inspiration behind this awkward and hilarious name, The Fractured But Whole? Interestingly enough, this name was created as a form of rebellion. The game's original name was South Park and the Butthole of Time, but the publisher said that the retailers wouldn't sell a game that had the word butthole in the title. And we all know Matt Stone and Trey Parker are not the type to take no for an answer, so they just kept brainstorming until they could think of a way to sneak that oh-so-naughty word into their beloved game title. But of course they did. It's not like Parker and Stone haven't done this before. Looking at you, South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. Once again, I'm Jacob, and thanks for watching 7 Facts About South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Which one did you find the most interesting? Is there any info that we missed that deserves the spotlight? Let us know in the comments below. We have new videos dropping every day, so let us know what game you want us to cover next. Don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of our notification squad, and if you like getting more from your games, subscribe to the Leaderboard. your home for video game facts.